I was rolling westbound at dawn, mile 118 on the overlay, when a yard boss at the scale house jabbed a thumb at the patch on my jacket and said I was just a broken trucker holding up real men's schedules. I signed the ticket, kept my mouth shut, and rolled. 4 hours later, steel folded ahead of me and somebody shouted, "Is anyone here a medic?" Same voice, only this time it wasn't laughing. Drivers, tell us in the comments below where you're watching from. The morning started clean. Sky the color of a new tarp, air cool enough to keep tempers quiet. My dash read 0642, cruise at 62, fuel at 3/4, logbook green. The portable scales outside the quarry had sprung up overnight, 2 cones short of polite. I eased onto the pad, brakes feathered, triangles stacked behind the seat like patience. The yard boss, Darren on the badge clip, forearms sunburned into permanent sleeves, walked the tape, smacked my mud flap with a pen, and told the trooper beside him I was one of those VA guys who can't lift without whining. The trooper glanced at my knee brace and chose not to laugh. My cab mic caught the sentence whole. My overlay stamped it with MM 118 0644. I don't argue with scales. I smile at rules and let paper do the balancing. Darren wanted a scene. I gave him a signature. "Where you headed, hero?" he said. "West," I answered. He stepped into my lane just long enough to make me use the clutch twice. When I pulled off the pad, he rapped the side of my box like it owed him rent. The trooper told him to knock it off, quiet-like, the way professionals save each other paperwork. I merged, said the mile marker out loud, and let the long asphalt rinse his voice out of the cab. By 0810, I was past the quarry dust and into river country, the highway braided with old bridges and new billboards. I run a habit when my neck prickles. I say things for later, signs, exits, plates. MM 131, I said. Weather clear. I don't know who I'm talking to when I do it. Maybe the future version of me who'll need to remember a day without wanting to. The phone chimed. A route alert. Bridge work at MM 142. 1 lane closed. Fine. Patience isn't a virtue out here. It's a tool. The call came 10 minutes later on the CB from Birdie, a grain hauler who knows every shoulder between here and the county line. "Watch your 12 at the 140 split," she said. 4-wheeler clipped a guardrail. Might be nothing, might be church. I thanked her and looked ahead. The air got that strange clarity it gets just before it gets ugly, like the day is sucking a breath. At 0901, my dashcam saw what my mirror didn't. Brake lights stacking up in the outside lane, a half-ton pickup sideways across the gore point, and a silver sedan nose down in the median, with steam making its own weather. I eased onto the shoulder at a diagonal and said the things that make sentences firm later. MM 139, westbound, 2 vehicles, 1 blocking, 1 in median. I'm setting a block, 2 souls visible. Calling it in. Dispatch answered with the tone that makes blood useful. Copy. Units en route. Keep a lane open if safe. Safe is a big word. I tried to put walls around it. A woman stood by the sedan, hands flat on the roof like she was holding the sky up. The pickup's driver, mid-30s, orange vest, the look of a foreman who says, "Move," more than please, was limping toward her, yelling about insurance. He turned, saw my truck and yelled at me instead, "Can you not block traffic, champ?" Same cadence as the quarry. Different day. Same mouth. He didn't recognize me. I recognized the posture. My job in that minute wasn't him. It was angle, hazard, triangles. I put the rig where it made sense. Trailer skewed to give the sedan a shadow. Nose out so I could move if fire learned our names. The woman's eyes were the size of quarters. "Is anyone in the sedan?" I asked, already knowing the answer from the way she rocked on her feet. "My boy," she said. "He's 5, seatbelt stuck." Her voice found a pitch I felt in my teeth. "And there's smoke. I carry an extinguisher because the book says to and because experience swears by it." I grabbed it, shouldered into the wind, and put a hand on the sedan's hood. Warm enough to hurry, not hot enough to lie. The smoke was insulation, not fuel. I told the woman to breathe because she'd need air to talk. "Name?" I asked, because names calm people down. "Ruth," she said. Him? Jacob, she said, and touched the roof with 2 fingers like she was blessing it. The pickup driver, Darren, now very much the same man in a different shirt, kept yelling we were blocking the whole county. I told him to stand behind my trailer or stand somewhere else. He chose the wrong place and then remembered gravity and moved. The belt was jammed because the seat had chewed its own rails. I keep a blade for this. Flat, hook tip. Doesn't care if your hands shake. Jacob, I said, leaning in through air that tasted like pennies, I'm going to make a snip. Cover your eyes. He did the bravest thing a 5-year-old can do. He listened. 1 cut, a wriggle, a lift at the hips, and he was free. He latched onto my shirt with both fists and forgot how to let go. I carried him out like a bag of grain, and Ruth made a sound that belongs to mothers and sirens. You never know who you're going to be next. Mule, gasket, translator. I became a clerk. Ruth, is anyone else in the car? No, she said. Any fuel smell? Just steam, I said. Any pain? His head, she said, and he nodded like he was trying to be helpful to a test he didn't study for. I checked pupils, checked for obvious bleeds, checked the kind of tremble that means trouble. He was going to bruise and he was going to cry. Both were honest work. I set them behind my bumper and told Jacob the story of my truck's name while I watched the pickup's driver do math with his chin. A trooper slid up like he'd been installed under the asphalt, fast, quiet, aiming the cruiser nose into the splash zone and making my wall official. He had that officer's stillness that tells adults to grow up. Who's got eyes on the start? He asked. I do, I said, and pointed at my dashcam. 0901 at MM 139, pickup sideways, sedan into median, belt jammed, child extracted. He nodded, the kind of nod trained men use when the right sequence arrives. He asked the pickup driver for his license. Darren puffed and said the sentence that tries to pull rank without a rank. I run safety at the quarry. Today you run patience, the trooper said. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. An engine company hove into view, took the lane away from the day, and made the scene look like a plan. The captain asked the right 3 questions and didn't ask the wrong 4th. He didn't need to know who started it. He needed to know where to stand. He stood where the heat would lose the argument and let his crew make a black hose look like a promise. I thought the story would end when the ambulance did what ambulances do. It pivoted instead. A scream split the morning from the far side of the pickup, a sound that makes adults move whether they like moving or not. A second vehicle I hadn't clocked, a white crossover, had been pushed into the ditch by the pickup's first spin and was now listing rear door jammed, occupant trapped by a seatback that had gone rogue. Darren heard the scream and forgot we were having words. He ran for the ditch and slid down on his side like a kid on wet grass, then froze a foot from the door as the car shifted on mud. Don't yank, I said, already sliding after him. We'll flip her pain into anger if we do, and you'll lose friends in court. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. What do we do? He asked, the words tasting strange to him. We do weight and leverage, I said, and planted my boots where the ground felt like telling the truth. We make the car believe it's safe to be touched. The fire captain took one look, ordered a cribbing stack, and tossed me a wedge like we'd worked 100 ditches together. Darren caught it, surprised by his own catch. We jammed wood where steel needed a sermon, and the car stopped trying to leave. The rear latch laughed at Polite. The captain passed me a Halligan. I passed it to a firefighter who knew his angles better than memory. The door popped with a sound like a bad secret escaping, and the trapped driver, Anna, came into air she trusted. She was conscious, mad at fate, and in a back brace she'd bought at a pharmacy, which meant her spine had opinions. The medics took over like a symphony tuning up, and I walked backward up the ditch, feeling the kind of tired that lives in the ankles. Darren followed, quiet for once. He looked at my knee brace, then at my hands, scraped and happier than they look, and said, not very loud, "You're that guy from the scale this morning." "I am," I said. He stared at the road and failed to find words. He tried, though. Look, I said. The sentence ran out of gas and sat by the lane with the triangles. You can finish it later, I said. For now, help me build a bigger shadow. We moved cones, pushed cars, turned a mess into lanes. The trooper took statements with the patience of someone who knows when to stand still. He asked for my numbers, MM1390901, Jacob, Ruth, Anna, pickup plate, sedan plate, crossover. I read them like roll call. He asked if I'd email the clip. I will, I said, and I'm saying the cross street now, River Road overpass. He wrote exactly that. Darren stood beside me like a post that had finally decided which fence it belongs to. The ambulance doors thumped closed on Jacob and Ruth. The fire captain tapped the hood of my truck with his knuckles, a ritual nod that says, "Good wall." He pointed at my knee and raised an eyebrow. It bends, I said, just slower than it used to. He grinned. Everything does. He turned to Darren. You okay? Darren nodded, eyes wet where dust doesn't go. I was loud, he said. Then I wasn't. That's growth, the captain said. Happens in ditches. Traffic creep returned, like a tide that doesn't take no. The trooper gave me a card with a case number and a line for my email. On the back he wrote, Child safe, Mom stable, Anna to City General. I slid it into the slot under my radio where I keep things worth finding twice. Darren stared at the card and then at me. I owe you, he said. Nah, I said. You owe them. I nodded toward the ambulance taillights. And you owe yourself a better sentence. He laughed once, a short sound like a nail gun misfiring. I called you broken, he said. You did, I said, but a lot of things that are broken still hold weight. Bridges, people. He swallowed. I've had a year, he said. My brother's gone, pills. I've been mad at everything that looks like it might drop something. He gestured at my brace, my truck, the world. Doesn't make what I said right. No, I said. It makes it human. He looked at the Halligan lying in the mud and picked it up like he was learning how to hold useful weight. What do I do now? He asked. Start with cones, I said. And when you see a rig making a wall, call it a wall, not a problem. He nodded and did what he was told, which is another definition of bravery people don't brag about. I rolled off the shoulder after the last broom passed. At the fuel stop 2 exits down, I emailed the clips, 0901 to 0908, pull-up, extraction, cribbing, the whole sequence with plates and mile markers glowing where the lens caught them. I added a note with names spelled right, because names deserve accuracy, at least as much as dates. The trooper replied from the car, Received. Tell the little guy his firefighter sticker is waiting at post 4. I smiled in the kind of way that makes hot coffee taste like something other than persistence. Darren texted 10 minutes later from a number I didn't have. A photo of Jacob waving with a bandaged head and a grin that didn't understand dread. He's okay, the caption read. Mom says thank you. She wants your truck's name for a card. I typed back. Hattie. She hauls and she forgives. Darren sent a thumbs up, then 3 dots, then nothing. Some apologies are heavier than pixels can carry on the first try. The day should have coasted after that. It didn't. The quarry put out a notice on the company channel. Safety stand down at 15 Saz because of a roadway incident involving a company pickup. I topped off, washed my hands, and thought about not going. Then I went. I parked in the corner of the quarry lot where the wind only half wins and watched crews pull off gloves and gather under a canopy. The same trooper from the shoulder stood up front next to the fire captain and a portable speaker. Darren sat 3 rows back with his badge clip turned inward. The trooper didn't tell a hero story, he told a timeline. At 0901, a pickup lost the lane at MM139. A truck blocked for life safety. A child was cut free. A second vehicle was stabilized. No fatalities. He held up my email printouts, 4 stills with timestamps and a scribble that said, Hattie, MM139. The Dashcam talked when people were busy, he said. That's what we want, busy people and honest records. He pointed to the cones stacked at the edge of the tent. Practice making walls. Practice not being the loudest voice when someone is hurt. Heads nodded the way heads do when they remember their own children. Then the captain spoke. He didn't mention my knee. He didn't mention the quarry. He said, "Valor looks boring up close. It's wood under steel and a voice that keeps counting." He held up the Halligan Darren had carried up out of the ditch. "This is heavy if you hold it wrong," he said. "So are words." He set it on the table like a ritual and stepped aside. Darren stood. He didn't go to the front. He turned where he stood. "I said something stupid at the scale this morning," he said to the crew. "And I watched the same man I ran my mouth at carry a kid out of a car and then hand me wood and make me useful. I want to say that out loud before a rumor turns it into a version I can live with." He swallowed. "We got standards. We lift with our legs. We use spotters. We don't mouth off to strangers. We don't call anyone broken unless we plan to stand next to them while they fix what's broke." The wind took the end of his sentence and gave it back softer. No one clapped. They didn't have to. Work crews know the value of a sentence spoken where you can be contradicted by people who were there. The trooper stepped up again and held out a small sticker, the kind kids love. "There's a little boy coming by post 4 later," he said. "We'll tell him a trucker he doesn't know made a good wall, and that his mom did the bravest thing, asked for help out loud." He tucked the sticker into his hat and broke the stand down with a nod. Men and women who make their living moving rocks went back to moving rocks, and the day remembered how to be a Tuesday. I didn't linger. I had a delivery window and a habit of not letting gratitude make me late. Darren caught me at the steps of my cab. "I was wrong," he said. "I'll be wrong again someday, but not in that way." He lifted a small box from under his arm, 2 trauma shears, a window punch, and a seatbelt cutter exactly like mine. "For the next driver who doesn't carry them," he said, "leave it at the truck stop. Put a note on it that says, 'You'll be glad you had this.'" I told him I would. He nodded once, the kind of nod that isn't sure if it's allowed to be called a salute, and walked back toward men in vests who were suddenly more careful around each other. I rolled west with the sun coming down and the radio talking about small things, auctions, weather, a lost dog found. At MM162, my phone buzzed with a 2-line text from an unknown number. "This is Ruth. City General says Jacob gets to keep the sticker on his cast. He named your truck Hattie Brave." I laughed out loud alone in a cab like a fool and decided I liked being called a fool by a 5-year-old more than I liked being called anything by a grown man at a scale. Night settled. The world turned the volume down. I watched the little red dash light blink like always and thought about what had shifted between 06:44 and 09:01 and 15:00. Not my knee, not the weight of steel, the temperature in one man's voice. He'd come to the day hot and left it warm, and somewhere in the middle we learned what the word valor really buys, time for other people to keep their lives. I fueled at the pilot near MM170, walked inside with the box Darren had given me, and taped a note to it with a strip of manifest sticker I tore off a pallet. "Take me if you don't have me. Pay it back by stopping safely." The cashier read it and said, "You see things out there." I said, "We all do." She slid a coffee across without ringing it and said, "Go keep doing it then." I didn't argue with Grace. Back in the cab, I checked the trooper's email one more time. There was a short addendum. "For your file, child stable. Anna admitted for observation. No fire, no fatalities. Good block." Good block is the kind of compliment you can build a week on. I put the phone face down, said the mile marker out loud, and let Hattie pull the rest of the night toward a place where names are spelled right on paperwork, and kids fall asleep with stickers on casts, and men who said the wrong thing this morning carry the right tool tomorrow. If you rode with me through this, tell us in the comments below where you're watching from, city, state, or the mile marker that raised you. 2 days later, I kept a promise, and rolled into post 4 with Hattie idling at a gentleman's purr. The lobby smelled like dry coffee and winter coats. On a corkboard, a line of paper stars carried names that don't make the news. Flat tires fixed, lost dogs found, jump starts at 3 a.m. The trooper from the ditch waved me over, reached into a drawer, and set a sheet of stickers on the counter like treasure. A small boy in a dinosaur hoodie stood on his toes beside him, hair freshly combed and stitches peeking through like punctuation. "Is that Hattie brave?" he asked, eyes wide. I said she was. He pressed a firefighter sticker to his cast and saluted so seriously the trooper had to look away to hide a grin. Ruth squeezed my hand and said, "Thank you," in a voice like a blanket. She didn't try to pay me back with anything but a short sentence and a steady look. That's the only currency that ever spends right on days like this. On my way out, the trooper handed me a small envelope with my name typed on a label that had given up at one corner. Inside was a photocopy of a one-paragraph note. "No fatalities. Child stable. Driver of crossover discharged with a brace and orders to rest." It wasn't an award, and I didn't want one. I folded it in half and slid it under the radio with the case number. The slot under there has its own religion. Birthdays, blessings, times you didn't embarrass yourself. Back on the highway, the world remembered regular things. Puddles in ruts, a billboard for a diner that never tastes as good as it looks, a flock of birds that turned all at once like a thought. I made my drop, caught a shower, and slept harder than my pillow deserved. Morning put me back at the pilot near MM170, the one with the bulletin board where hand-drawn notices shout in Sharpie. Someone had taken the rescue kit Darren asked me to leave, and underneath my note a new one had appeared. "Used this today. Window punch works. Returning a new kit tomorrow. Pay it forward." No signature. I took a picture and sent it to Darren without a caption. 3 bubbles appeared, then stopped, then came back. "We're doing something," he finally wrote. "Stand by." By lunch, I knew what he meant. An email from the quarry went out to haulers and contractors. "Safety clinic this Friday. Stop the bleed. Scene shielding. Seatbelt cutters. Bring your crew." It was written in the all-caps style of people who think volume makes things true, but the content was right. I flipped my route to catch it. Friday looked like rain until it didn't. Tarps snapped. The fire captain from the ditch stood on the bed of a pickup and turned his voice into a tool. He didn't make heroes. He made checklists. How to park a rig so you make a shadow instead of a hazard. How to wedge cribbing so weight remembers it has friends. How to talk to scared people without borrowing their fear. He held up my hook blade and showed 30 hands where to keep one so that when seconds arrive in a hurry, the tool does too. No syrup, all lumber. The trooper followed with a shorter block on triangles, cones, and reporting. He didn't scold. He said, "We love paperwork you can read in one pass. Mile marker, time, what you did, what you didn't do." He pointed at me. "This driver says the cross street out loud when his neck gets loud. Steal that." People wrote it down like a spell. Darren didn't hide. He wore a plain ball cap and a clean shirt and stood where everyone could see him inhale before he spoke. "I said something dumb," he admitted, and a few boots scuffed gravel because they'd heard. "I called a man broken." He wasn't. He was bending where life bent him, and he still held. I watched him carry a kid I didn't. "If you're gonna mouth off, you better be ready to pick up wood." "I'm picking up wood." He lifted a bundle of cribbing and carried it to the station like he meant it. After the clinic, a handful of us truckers loitered like old dogs in sun. A man in a grain hauler cap leaned on my step and said, "I've been doing this 30 years. Never cut a belt. Bought a cutter today. Feels like cheating." I told him cheating is what we call preparation when pride doesn't know the word. He laughed, and it sounded like gravel finding a bed. The quarry posted a memo the next week that didn't look like much, but felt like a warranty. "If you make a wall for life safety, you are not blocking. We will back your play." They stapled another sheet beside it, listing 5 things a foreman can say at a scene that are actually helpful. "It's okay to be loud," the captain had said at the clinic. "Just be loud in the right direction." At the bottom, someone had typed, "Say the right thing" in bold. Easy to mock, easy to remember. Insurance moved like syrup, but my Dashcam cut it with coffee. 2 adjusters, one for the pickup, one for the crossover, asked for my footage and asked the same question from 2 angles. Did the pickup move first? They weren't mad. They were hungry. I sent the clip, wrote 4 lines under it, time, place, sequence, name spelled right, and refused money twice because I'm allergic to checks that try to buy the dignity you got for free by showing up. They sent a note anyway. Thank you for preserving evidence. That phrase is the compliment version of talk, quiet and effective. A week after post 4, a small reunion happened by accident. I had a short window between loads and took it by the river, where a food truck sells tacos that taste like one person took an oath. A kid ran past with a cast full of autographs and a sticker peeling at the corners. "Hattie Brave!" he yelled, and Ruth laughed so hard the river looked like it was laughing with her. She handed me a bag. Inside, a paper dinosaur Jacob had drawn with my truck's name written upside down across the trailer. Kids write truth like wind, crooked, decisive, and fine. Darren pulled up 10 minutes later, half by coincidence, half by apology that didn't want to be scheduled. He had that humility that sticks on men like new paint. Still drying, still soft in places, much better than before. "We're naming the clinic the Wall Class," he said. "Boss likes it, says it sounds like work." He showed me his phone. Photos of orange vests in lines, cutters in glove boxes, a bulletin board where Stop the Bleed certificates leaned like diplomas in a barbershop. "We're not fixing the world," he said. "We're fixing our half day." That's a better sentence than any motto I've seen stenciled on a truck. He turned serious. "There's a thing," he said, "about my brother." He told me on the tailgate, in the shade, in the voice of a man who had tried to hold too much quiet for too long. Pills had come for someone he loved. He'd been angry at everyone who moved slowly near him since. "Seeing you move slow and right ran a wire through my fuse," he said. "I needed it." I told him pain comes in different uniforms. Some wear vests, some wear casts, some wear bravado so loud it scares their own friends. He nodded, and we didn't fix anything. But the conversation took one nail out of something heavy. News arrived sideways one afternoon. Anna, the crossover driver, sent a text through the trooper. "Back at work. Physical therapy. Tell your friend with the blade I owe him a door." I said he'd settle for a wave, and that she should save her money for boring groceries and nice coffee. She sent a photo of her back brace draped over a chair like a snake that had shed and didn't need the skin anymore. Progress is messy. It still counts. Quarry life shifted in small ways that add up. Darren put seatbelt cutters on a pegboard near the punch clock and announced a bounty. "Show him where yours is mounted. Get a coffee card." Men and women competed like kids. The trooper stopped by once a month, not for tickets but for 10 minutes with a fresh crew, pointing at cones, showing them where to park at a scene, reminding them that cameras do half their talking if they let them. The fire captain dropped off a retired Halligan with a Sharpie message on the shaft, "Hold weight, use words wisely." It hung over the brake table like a quiet uncle. I pulled a night run through a thunderstorm big enough to earn a name. Semis hunched up like cattle. A sedan surfed its own wake and learned humility late. I used the new window punch once by a rest area picnic table where someone had chosen badly and locked their baby in while the air turned to soup. 2 seconds of glass and a blanket later, the baby took a breath loud enough to make strangers clap. The seatbelt cutter didn't see action, which is the best day it can have. The county board posted an accident review a month out. Improper lane usage by the pickup, speed appropriate for conditions for the rig, contributing factors listed dry and true. No mention of hero, just truck positioned to shield. That's what I wanted on the record. If a future lawyer came fishing, the file would feed him facts, not rumors. Midway through the second month, the trooper called. "We're doing a citizen assist day," he said. "Not medals, just coffee and a handshake in a cinderblock room." I went. A retiree who'd changed a flat in the rain got a handshake. A teenager who dialed 911 for a grandparent and stayed on the line until the paramedic said thank you got a handshake. I got a handshake and a note printed on cheap paper with my name spelled right and the words "good block" centered like a secret. I stuck it in the glove box behind the dinosaur drawing and didn't tell anyone except the little red light on my dash. A small church bulletin ended up in my hands one Sunday because a cashier at the Pilot thought I should see it. It had a photo of a boy with a cast and a mother with a smile and a paragraph that said, "We are grateful for strangers who knew what to do." It also had a line about pride, how sometimes we use it to keep our dignity and sometimes to keep us from asking for help. The sermon didn't mention trucks or tools. It didn't need to. I kept running. Miles, stacked the way good habits do, boring, honest, always there when you reach. Every time I passed MM139, I said the number out loud. Sometimes I pictured Ruth waving in a bright lobby and Jacob hitting a light switch with a healed hand. Sometimes I saw Darren carrying wood that looked lighter than it used to. Sometimes I saw my own knee brace and remembered that broken doesn't mean useless. It means you're in the club that keeps going anyway. One afternoon, an email from the Quarry HR lady. Subject line, Valor. I almost didn't open it because you learn to fear capital letters in subject lines. Inside, a request to use my clip for a training module. We want to show new hires what shutting up and doing the next right thing looks like, she wrote. You're the voiceover, if you're willing. I said yes, only if the voiceover didn't say my name. Deal, she wrote back. We're calling it The Wall, 3 minutes that matter. When the module debuted, I ducked in the back of the shop and listened without letting anyone see me. My dashcam showed the approach, the angle, the extraction, the cribbing, the handover. The narrator, not me, said, Valor isn't loud, it's accurate. The room stayed still the way rooms do when a sentence lands. Then the foreman, who used to be the loudest person wherever his boots were, held up a cutter and said, Who needs one? Hands rose like a field. I got a different kind of envelope the week after, thin, smudged, addressed in block letters from a hand that practiced. Inside, a note on plain paper. I'm sorry I made your morning ugly. I'm trying to make mine useful. Thank you for giving me something to do besides talk. No signature, didn't need it. I put it with the dinosaur and the printed note and the one paragraph from Post 4. Glove boxes can hold a surprising amount of good. By the time autumn leaned in, the story had turned into other people's habits. A flatbed blocked for a deer strike on the county road and got a wave from a deputy instead of a lecture. A dump truck driver called out mile markers on the radio during a hailstorm like he was reading bedtimes to the sky. The pilot board stayed stocked with rescue kits because a quiet contest had sprung up. Buy one, leave one. No points, just pride that stopped pretending to be ego and started being community. Near the end of the season, I stopped again at Post 4. The trooper was off. The lobby was quiet. A woman at the window looked at my hat and smiled. You the Hattie driver? She asked. Sometimes, I said. She slid an envelope through. From a kid, she said. Inside, a crayon drawing, Hattie bigger than the sun, me waving, Jacob with both hands in the air, the river a blue line. He'd added 4 block letters under my bumper. H-E-L-D, not helped, held. Close enough to perfect, I almost graded it on the spot. On the way out, I passed the corkboard again. New stars had joined the line. Somebody shooed geese off a roadway. Somebody pushed a stalled car through an intersection without turning it into a spectacle. Somebody's dashcam caught a hit-and-run plate clearly enough to make a victim whole. None of it will ever trend. All of it adds up. Darren and I don't have coffee every week. We don't trade holiday cards. We nod when we pass and text when it matters. Storm warnings, shoulder closures, the occasional you got this before a long pull. He slid a photo across one evening while I was waiting on a dock. His crew around a plastic dummy with tourniquets, everyone serious and a little proud. Second class, he wrote. We're getting faster. I told him faster is good if it follows right. He sent back a thumbs up and a period, which is how men our age sign their names without signing. If you're waiting for a parade, I'll disappoint you. There isn't one. There's a new drawer in a warehouse labeled Emergency with real gear inside. There's a boy who tells anyone who'll listen that trucks can be brave. There's a mother who sleeps without jumping awake at the sound of tires on gravel. There's a foreman who learned to hold weight without handing out insults. There's a trooper who gives out stickers to healers who don't have licenses. There's a trucker who says mile markers to himself and thanks a little red light for being tireless. And there's a road that looks exactly the same as it did before, which is the best ending I know, because when a place where something went wrong looks ordinary again, it means a lot of small right things happened in between and stayed done. Drivers, tell us in the comments below where you're watching from, city, state, or the mile marker that raised you. And if nights where receipts beat rumors and everyday folks win by inches feel like home, subscribe so the next run finds you. Next time, I'll tell you about a way station random that wasn't, until a backup camera and a log page taught a stopwatch the difference between downhill and dishonest.